If I could have only rock stars, hire only rock stars, I would hire only rock stars,
What do we all?
right? But the reality is it doesn't exist. Like, the rock stars are few and far between, but that's okay.
People aren't vulnerable.
Everyone's-
People don't want to say the truth.
It's for the cloud. Everything's for the cloud.
Who wants to show all the problems you have in business or all the struggles you have in business? Like, I get it. It's hard to be vulnerable. Nobody wants to be vulnerable.
Sure.
But, I mean, there's value. Like, there's value in that.
Welcome back to another episode of Intrepidus Podcast with your hosts, Dan and Anthony. Today we have a special guest. His name is Mike Radis, and he's with Globex Performace. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about what you do, Mike.
So our main focus is off-road vehicle upfitter. We pretty much build off-road vehicles for people, whether it be lift wheels and tires, all the way up to full buggy builds, so off-road only, like lots of wheel travel, crazy stuff, climbing up mountains and over boulders the size of cars and whatnot. And then our second side of our business is CNC manufacturing. So we make our own parts, suspension, and accessory stuff, and we do some job shop stuff out of that as well. So,
All right, so you've been doing this for 15 years.
yep.
30 years in the car industry business, similar
Yeah.
like businesses, but you've been doing performance parts for Jeeps, Wranglers, all types of off-road vehicles. What got you into it? Why?
So my very first version or jump into being an entrepreneur, I just worked for a guy and looked at his business and I was like, I could do this better. I could treat people better.
Right.
And I just kind of jumped into that and thought it was going to be pretty simple. It was anything but simple. It was quite an eye-opening experience. Funny looking back now at what he was actually a really good business owner. I just didn't see it at the time. I didn't know what I was looking at. I was just young and thought I could do better, you know.
That's pretty awesome. So you've been in business or an entrepreneur for 30 years. For the last 15 years, you've owned Globex. And obviously, you've built this nationwide company that everyone knows about. And, you know, people literally ship their vehicles to you from other states. So you obviously are doing something well. But how did it start?
So we started in my business partner, Mike Nadel's shed. We had a car business before this, and my business partner at the time was an addict. He stole a bunch of money from me, and it was just a mess. So when we were all done, I had $1,000 left. You know, we had a pretty successful business at the time, but yeah, I had $1,000 when it was all said and done. It was pretty bad. And we sat in Mike's shed, and we just systematically decided we were going to start a shop, whether it be car performance, off-road performance, some sort of shop. I looked around, and I was like, well, there's like 10 dynos, within like 40 miles of me. Starting a car performance shop, probably not a good idea. So we looked around and I was like, well, we like making all this off-road stuff, so we should just be an off-road shop. And that's kind of where it started. So we took that $1,000 and just went all in, total crazy, young, and just went for the hills there.
How did you go right just into Jeeps? Like, you guys are just the Jeep specialty guys. It's like your thing. I see you do some trucks and stuff, but
Yeah.
how did you become the Jeep guys?
We were just laser focused. We did some market research on the whole thing, and I looked around, and Wrangler is, and it's probably the number one selling off-road vehicle out there. So, we looked at that and just kind of laser focused into that. When we first started, we kind of just did a little bit of everything. Just what happens when you first start a shop.
Make that money, yeah.
Yeah, you try to, right? And I quickly realized that you can't be good at everything, So we found sections of that industry that we are really good at. We don't do motor work. I don't do motor diagnostics. Those things we always got beat up on them every time. And I felt terrible. I would never charge a customer like how many hours it really took for me to diagnose these vehicles. And once I realized that, I was like, listen, we're great at building axles. We can build axles like probably nobody else around here. And we're really good at suspension work. We're really good at designing suspension stuff. So we should just do that. And that's exactly what we focused on. We kind of built an entire business based around that.
Now you're in the Bronco world too, though. Broncos are coming back, huh?
Yeah, we do some Bronco stuff. We've made some pretty cool Bronco stuff. Actually, our Bronco was just in the Hankook commercial. They just filmed with our Bronco.
Awesome.
Jumping some stuff, so it's kind of cool.
That is awesome. Okay, so we might upset some listeners, but I'm going to need your honest opinion about some of the vehicles that you work with
Sure.
today. Is the Jeep Wrangler the go-to off-road vehicle?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Right. I really like solid axle stuff. The independent front stuff drives really nice on the road. Very, very nice. And it does have its place off road. It does well. You know, some of these like go fast, Ultra 4 type stuff, and they do really well, but they are purpose built for that. But for the everyday off road guy, the Wrangler's pretty hard to beat.
Wrangler's hard to beat. Good. All right. Well, I guess we're not going to upset your customers today, but I was hoping for, maybe a little bit more of a radical answer, but it's good. Fantastic. So in terms of what you've done with the business, right? You started with just upfitting vehicles. You weren't in manufacturing, but then you made that jump into manufacturing. Now, I know that's not easy. But for the audience that who's listening now, who may be interested in manufacturing some of their own parts, I mean, if you were to give some advice on how to start manufacturing, where would you begin?
So I think the first thing I would do is I'd probably take some engineering classes, just
Okay.
basic. Doesn't even have to go to college for engineering, but just so you understand how things work. I would download like a CAD program, Fusion 360, and just play, learn how things get designed and get built and how things interact with each other. And then from there, I would probably learn into job shopping and realize that you don't have to actually manufacture all the parts yourself. It's one of the things I learned in the very beginning. I did not know that was a thing. I had an experience at another big off-road shop, and who was a manufacturer, who still is a manufacturer, and I thought that you need to own the lasers and the brakes and the millions of dollars of equipment to do this. And I fly out there, and my first 5 minutes into the experience, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is where we weld everything." I'm like, "Oh, it's cool." I was like, "Where do you guys make all this stuff?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, we have another place to do that, and they just bring all the parts in and we just weld them together." And I'm like, "Oh," light bulb goes off, and I'm like, "Yeah, this makes sense."
Yeah, because I think the two biggest things that would stop someone from maybe getting into manufacturing, because I've thought about it before, and it's like, wow, that's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
But the two main points of fear is one, I don't have the intellect to figure this out, because you might need a master engineering license, but you don't have one, and you've done well. And the other thing is, it's got to be massively expensive, right? The amount of capital that I need in order to make a functional manufacturing facility is probably outrageous. But what we discussed earlier, it's actually not all there. So like, if someone wanted to get into manufacturing, besides maybe taking an engineering course and go and see the facility, like, what piece of equipment is easiest to work with, and what would you recommend someone buying?
I would probably get a computer.
AutoCAD.
Learn some sort of CAD software.
Okay.
Fusion 360 is pretty cheap, free if you're a hobbyist, and you can. It's very, very powerful. You could build everything there, all the way up to cars, and it gives you, there's the learning curve is steep there, but YouTube today really, the sky's the limit. Like,
You can
there's
learn
so much
anything on
there's
YouTube.
so much
Anything.
information on there. I mean, I learned CAD before YouTube was really, really big, so it's kind of limited. And but for me, I spent 40 hours. I mean, I'm pretty thick-headed when I want to do something. It's just everything else gets shut off, and that's all I want to do.
Don't age yourself too much, all right? He's not that old, folks. Yeah,
Old enough.
Before YouTube.
Old enough, but yeah. So yeah, I spent 40 hours. I took a week off of work, and I was at 40 hours straight, and I learned everything to do. I modeled literally everything in my house: Coke bottles, and whatever, coffee cups, everything. I just
What's your thoughts on 3D printing?
love it.
Love 3D
Love
printing.
it. Yeah, rapid prototyping is an incredible feature.
I think you should tell the audience that you don't use 3D printed products on your
Oh,
off-road
actually,
vehicles.
ironically, we do use 3D printed products on our
Do you?
stuff. Yeah, we make shift knobs for things. And
Okay, non-performance like parts.
No, but you can use 3D printed stuff on performance
Really?
stuff. Oh yeah. You could
Very
print
interesting.
performance material stuff. You could print metal. That's a thing. Yeah. There's machines that'll do additive, which is 3D printing, and then subtractive at the same time. It'll 3D print stuff and then machine stuff away to create a final product. You
Amazing.
could make some amazing stuff that you can't actually machine out of 3D printed stuff. It's incredible.
So you built this like massive enterprise. You guys have multiple bays where you are. You like literally need more space. You have more stuff than you have space. Where do you see Globex in the next 5-10 years? Like, what is your guys' vision, you and Mike? Like, where do you guys see yourself going?
So we definitely need a building. That's really our next big move. I think as far as Globex goes, employee-wise, I'm pretty happy with where we are. We're going to get to the point where HR starts to become a little crazier, and I'm kind of happy with the team that we have, that we've built. So we're really stretching the manufacturing side, and the scalability is so much better, right? Like, you could only service so many people on the service side of things, right? But the manufacturing side, you could service the entire world. So
You do a lot of shipping, a lot of worldwide
Yeah.
shipping. I see you have a whole bay that's just dedicated to all your shipping.
yeah, we have an entire bay just for shipping and receiving, and then it's so I think that in the next 5 years, give or take, I'd like to have a building, a dedicated building, a bunch more CNC machinery. We're spending 25 automating all of our manufacturing processes, because right now I am our manufacturing process,
Right.
and it is terrible.
Just
and
one
it's
man.
it's a lot, right? I'm lucky that my team that I've built with Globex runs Globex for me and allows me to do the manufacturing thing, which technically is a startup, right?
Yeah.
I don't have 10 machinists there and, a bunch of designers and all of this stuff. I don't have that. It's just me.
So is it you running from machine to machine, just like collecting parts and like
So-
putting things together, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. So my lathe, luckily, bar feeds itself. So we put a bar in, and it makes, if I tell it to make 50 parts, it makes 50 parts. So I don't really have to babysit that too much. But my mill, I definitely have to babysit. It is horrible. So we are really spending 25 changing that, so I don't have to do that anymore.
What? How many employees, Jeff?
We have, let's see, 2, 4, 7.
7. And as you scale, and one of the things that you said in the intake form that I found very interesting, and it's one of my favorite topics, is surrounding culture.
Yes.
And you said, I wish somebody told me how important culture was, which nobody does. It's just like in high school when no one tells you how important credit is, right? But when you start a business, no one tells you about how important culture is. So tell us a little bit about when you realized that culture was important, and what steps are you taking now to improve it?
So yeah, I had a couple of employees that were insanely talented. So like most of my fabricators that I've hired over the years, crazy talented people, but they all had attitudes. And I didn't realize until my current fabricator that I hired just kind of said, hey, listen, this guy's like really toxic to us. He brings the entire shop down when has his attitude problem. And I always just kind of put up with it because he was so talented. I thought it was okay that I could deal with this. And then just looking in the mirror, I realized that, I'm the problem. Like, I created this culture. Like, I allowed this to happen. And I realized that if I can fix the culture into where everybody wants to work together and be a team, and, it's not like these guys are against these guys or against that guy, and everyone can just work as a unit, like how much better work really is. The teams are more efficient. Everyone's happier. It's just the environment's better, So yeah, it was probably a few years ago, probably about like maybe in 19, it's really when I noticed it. And so for the past few years, I've really worked on myself, which I think has helped me grow our culture into what do we currently have. And you can ask anyone on my team right now, and they will all tell you, like, what we have right now. It's special,
So having a bad culture is like having a bad relationship with a bunch of friends, but you don't see it because this has been your unit for some time, and then everybody on the outside is like, what is that guy doing with them,
Oh, yeah.
And it's terrible. So based on your growth that you said from 2019 and now, what have you done? Like, you do personal development. What do you do? What have you done to take the steps to grow, to become better? Because in culture, you create a cult. That's just a short name of culture, but you have to be the leader. And how did you create from 2019 to now we're going into 2025? How did you create that new culture, and how did you make yourself into that individual that you wanted to mimic?
So I was always a pretty easygoing person, right? I was just kind of, if somebody, like, I was kind of a pushover. I definitely was. And I wouldn't always, if something was really important, I didn't always push myself to make that known, and I kind of let Mike do that. And I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to like just be who I should be. Like just stand up for what I need to stand up for. And, if I have to be mean sometimes, I have to be mean sometimes. That's just how it works, and,
Man up.
yeah, actually, Dave helped me a lot with that.
Yeah.
Dave really woke me up to be a better version of me. He really did. And so, yeah, I mean, I do a lot of reading. I've always read a lot, but I decided instead, like, I would read just to learn things because I like to learn. But I just read more leadership books. And
Hey guys, quick interruption to the show. Please don't forget to follow us and like us.
You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Hit that like button. We appreciate the algorithm. Thanks, guys.
Love you guys.
It's important to you really focus on the things that you want to become. Man Up. I was just talking about his book, Bedros Koulian. He's my coach, and his book's great. I mean, even for anyone in the world to read that book, and if you read that book and the stuff that he talks about, it's like, dude, you could be so much better than you are.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ed Milet has a book, The Power of One More. That's one of my favorite books. It's just about like doing one more thing, one more rep, one more time. And it's just like, there's so many things in leadership that we don't know as individuals. And once we stop learning, it's just like kind of like things fade away. But when you get into that momentum and you realize like you just woke up like, hey, things need to change, that's that wake up point. It's that pivotal point. So that's what took you from 2019 to where you are, took you into manufacturing because Mike became the real Mike. You just stop flowing with the day. So that brings me to a question. Everything looks all good, seems all good, you're growing, but what keeps you up at night?
honestly, just thinking that I may not live up to my personal potential. I feel like there's a lot of pressure, owning a business with employees, right?
Yeah.
When you own a business by yourself and it's just you, the pressure is just you. Like, what does it matter if it all falls apart, right? Or whatever happens, like, it's just you. Get up and do it again. It's happened to me before. I've had failed businesses and I just brush it off and try again, learn from the mistakes. Listen, when you have like a lot of people relying on you and a lot of families relying on you, your family relying on you, there's a lot of pressure there, So what I do to try to mitigate that though is just every day I just try to be a little bit better, right? Even if it's just 0.0001% better,
that.
whatever, just try to be better every day.
How do you and your partner, because you have a partner, how do you guys balance? Because you're probably, I know that you're both two different people, two different personalities, two different aspects of the business with your focuses. How do you manage that? And I know that you have a manager that runs your entire shop that kind of like you guys give him, hey, you guys do this, but then you guys are the outsource of that. How do you manage like when you feel like maybe Mike's not doing what he needs to do or Mike feels like you're not doing what you do? How do you guys come together and reunite?
It took us a long time to figure out that part of the business. It really did, right? I was a very trusting person. I just am a very trusting person.
You seem that way.
Yeah, yeah. And if you say you're going to do something, I just trust you're going to do it. And, but that's not always the case. And, good intentions, like it happens. But we've gotten to a point now where we just kind of understand what we need, right? There's plenty of things I am just not really good at, or maybe that I'm not good at. It's just I don't put the effort in to become really good at. Like there's only so much of you that you can do, right? Like there's only so much energy you have and so much focus you can have. So I'm lucky that he does this stuff. He enjoys this stuff that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Partnerships are tough.
Extremely.
Really, really tough.
Very.
And
I know firsthand.
yeah, I've been burned by some bad partners.
Me as well.
But I was really lucky with Mike. Really, really lucky. Like there's times where I think that in a partnership, like one partner is going to carry more weight than the other. It's just how it works.
100%.
And as long as the other one understands that when the roles get reversed, they're okay carrying the weight too, then I think it all works out in the end. And that's what makes a great partnership.
Yeah, Anthony and I have a good partnership. Like at certain times we play good cop, bad cop. At the other times, like I'm extremely anal. So like I don't let him worry about the studio. I don't let him worry about nothing when he comes. He's always, there's something new. There's whatever. Like I just take care of it.
Always something new.
When it comes to studying gas and doing stuff like that's him. He's the analytical guy. He needs to study gas. I don't even read people's stuff. I just know people for how I know people. I see what I see, and I just want to be a straight shooter. So we work on two different scales. He uses what he does very well. I use what I do very well. And we've had a great partnership. But, in the beginning, it was like we didn't know where to go with it. Then we said, all right, you're good at this. You do that. I'm good at this. I do that. I don't even ask him Nothing. I don't even tell him what I'm doing at this dude. He just shows up. You know what I mean? Like it's all set up.
True.
It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like it is what it is. You know, we have some guy who might be ordering us stuff. He goes, "Who approved it?" I said, "I did." All right, no question.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to do something that's going to hurt us. He's not going to do something that's going to hurt us. But it took a long time, and it took me to understand that. I've went through many partnerships over my 25 years in business that like people fucking suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And once you find the right person who you can work with, it's like having a great partner.
Yeah.
You know, utilize somebody for what they're good for, and what they're not good for, don't try to make them do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of just being great partner, great leader, right? Is just realizing your own weaknesses, what you're not good at, and just putting people in place that are good at that, so they, you know, your whole team could be the best version.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the only way you develop a great team, and
Yeah.
that team propels you to the next level, right? You get that one person, that key player, that brings you to the level that you wouldn't expect to be before. But
yeah.
you need those players, and you know you have those players. You had extremely talented people, exception of the one extremely talented person. Actually, I had a question about that. That
Sure.
one talented person, they still with you? Did you correct the issue,
No,
or
was
the correction the separation?
We separated.
Okay.
It was honestly, it was time. It was just time. Like he knew it, I knew it. At the time, I was just too nervous to let him go because I thought at the time that like, oh, if I let him go, then what's going to happen, right? Like, and it was an irrational fear. And now that I've realized that it makes my future choices much easier because I know that like I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, you know what? We have, and everybody has the same exact fear. In my business, Solar Medics, we have this one manager in New Jersey who is kind of, for lack of a better term, held hostage to some of the employees, right? Just something that you probably felt before, where you think this one person is carrying so much weight, and if I get rid of them, then all of these tasks that they're assigned to are now going to fall at the wayside, and maybe the business suffers overall, so on and so forth. But the reality is the toxicity of that person brings down everybody else and doesn't let them shine to the degree that this person shines because of a negativity. And then you realize once you get rid of them that all the rest of the players are fantastic. They're all A players. They're starters, baby.
Oh yeah.
Getting rid of somebody is the hardest, you know, because you always feel like, oh, where am I going to start? I got to train somebody. But it's so much
Train
easier.
higher, you know.
It's so much easier to bring in somebody new and get them corrected in your culture than to try and fix something that's broken and broken and broken because of the stress and the anxiety of trying to make that person better. They just don't want to become better.
Speaking of training, do you guys have like an extensive amount of training for your type of businesses?
Yes, a lot, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, very much so. And it's one of those things that I was granted the opportunity to work with another company that showed me process, showed me training, and I brought that into the business. You know, we have mission essential task lists, we have SOPs, we have everything that one person would need to step in and say, oh, I know exactly what they do at any given moment. But, you know, some people are just not receptive. And that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Is finding the person that's trainable, willing and able. And once you find that person, then the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, they have to fit the culture, right? Like if they're
And they
not
do.
open to learning,
Right.
then they're probably not going to fit the culture, which means they're probably not going to work out in your team.
Absolutely.
You know, I didn't know how important procedures were, like standard operating procedures. I wish I would have learned this like 10, 20 years ago because like it's very valuable to be able to just, I mean, we have things now where you just scan a QR code. If you don't know how to run a machine or you don't know how to use something, scan a QR code. It has step-by-step instructions.
That's beautiful.
So training is almost non-existent. They could train themselves. Anybody could run almost anything that we have.
Right. Now it's about finding the person who wants to train themselves,
Yes.
right? Because self-educate, which honestly today is very difficult.
It is, but I mean, luckily we don't have a lot of turnover. We have very low turnover.
That's great.
But during the interview process, I try to ask specific questions just to get the mindset that I want. You know, make sure they're going to try to fit the culture. I introduce them to all my guys. You know, so I get an opinion from my guys because it matters. You know, the vibe that they have to flow with the shop. Because if they don't flow with the shop, it's never going to work. You know,
It does get a lot more difficult. I'll tell you from experience. I'm hiring my 30th employee next week, and you start to realize that you're not going to get it right 100% of the time the first time, and you're going to have to make those decisions kind of add to after the fact. And if you limit your options to like search, or you just choose your absolute best person and you're waiting for that person to come and apply to your Indeed posting, there's a good chance that it takes way too long and you're missing a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced. Actually,
have.
my current. I mean, I experienced some bad stuff in like the COVID era. That whole run was rough finding employees.
Very.
And so like
Impossible.
Free money. Who wants to work?
yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Like if I could have only rock stars, hire only rock stars, I would hire only rock stars.
What do we all?
Right? But the reality is it doesn't exist. Like the rock stars are few and far between, but that's okay. I was real hesitant in the beginning to hire somebody who needed a lot of work to teach them how to do it because like at the time I was like, man, it's just so much work to get them up to speed. But I've learned that with I have a current guy that we hired, really was brand new into this whole thing, like really was green, and I really wasn't sure. But like, I loved his personality. He fit the culture perfect. He was very willing to learn. And we were just patient with him. He is like one of the best techs I've ever had now. One of the best.
So the space I'm in, where I coach people, and I've been getting coaches and having coaches for 20 plus years. I've been in personal development for a long time. I had a business for 25 years, and I'm slowly graduating into just this coaching space. And I actually interview my clients. I send them a questionnaire. They answer the questionnaire based on what they say. I'll tell them if it's a good fit or not. But there's so many people that are life coaches, business coaches, this coach and that coach, but they have no experience. I have 25 years and I've been in the industries. I've been in business. I've worked with people. I understand people. But at the same time, like I'm still getting coached, And the problem is so many people in business, when you talk to the employee side of it, is in today's world, everyone wants to work for more money than they're worth, right? For less hours than they want to put in. And nobody wants to say, hey, this is the value I bring to the hour. They say, how much do I make an hour? And I remember 25 years ago, I could hire as many guys as I want. Everyone wanted to work. Everyone showed up to work. They showed up early. They had coffee. They did whatever they had to do. Now it's like, shit, man, this guy's 5 minutes late. And this is the way the world has turned. The world has changed so much. So now I have people that I'm trying to coach. My question is like, what time do you get up? What do you do? How much TV do you watch? Like, where is your mind and where are you trying to go? Because if this is the direction you're going in life, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because people just really make excuses. I put up a post the other day, and I'm not going to apologize for myself, but I put up a post the other day about people who play video games. You got grown ass fucking adults playing video games, complaining they got no money, they got no this, they got no that. Their wives sit there and cook dinner, clean the house, watch them play video games. Like, grow the fuck up, dude. Like, at the end of the day, I don't have time to watch TV, and you got 20 hours a week to play video games with your headphone on, playing with your buddies across the world. Like, bro, maybe you're 12 years old, it's different, but at the end of the day, you're a grown ass adult. But these are the people who complain, oh, it must be nice, all this bullshit, because they don't want to change the way they think, and I can't help a guy like that if he can't help himself.
That's very true, but it also means that for the people who want to be entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, the bar has never been lower.
Right.
100%.
Right. The bar for success has never ever been lower than it currently is.
100%.
So if you just wake up and you do the work,
because we're in a culture of influencers.
Yeah.
Kids think they can make money off of YouTube, they can make money off of Instagram, they can make money off of TikTok. But at the end of the day, like
influencing and not doing.
Right. Yeah. These guys are all full of shit. They rent stuff. They do stuff like just the dumb shit you see on the internet. And these kids, like even my daughter's 14 years old, and she'd be like, "Oh, this guy's got a blue check." I said, "Who gives a shit?" You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, what's he doing for you? What's he doing for other people? Yeah, he's got a Lambo. He probably rented it. He's got a house, and all his friends live there. They rent it. They don't have this stuff, and they don't understand the mindset. We didn't look at that stuff. The internet has changed the game of the way people think.
So do you think that social media creates this culture that, just makes people show a fake version of themselves only?
100%.
Absolutely.
No real
without
version?
without a doubt.
100%.
Yeah, without a doubt.
People aren't
Everyone's-
vulnerable. People don't want to say the truth.
It's for the clout. Everything's for the clout. You know what I mean? If you fake it till you make it, it's the epitome of that phrase.
So I started this like small Facebook group, and it's just entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But
Thanks for the
what's it
invite.
called?
Thanks for the
it's
invite.
called
Plug it.
Find Your Way.
Find your wife.
Yeah.
It sounded like
And-
you must say find your wife. I was like,
Find
well,
your
that
way.
doesn't sound like an
Find
entrepreneur.
Your Way, and it's just really super vulnerable, right? It's like real talk, like real problems, and I'm really lucky that most of the people I joined. I mean, in my group, like over the years, I've met so many
Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have joined up, and they've invited their friends, and it's small. It's like 70 people, I think, something like that, or 78 people.
It's nice.
But it's just real talk, and it's interesting when you get to see that side of it. Most people don't show that, right? Like, who wants to show all the problems you have in business or all
Yeah.
the struggles you have in business? Nobody wants to show that. Like, I get it. It's hard to be vulnerable. Nobody wants to be vulnerable.
Very.
But I mean, there's value. Like, there's value in that, really. You know, that's like the real you.
Yeah, I think that,
Anthony and I used to be in a mastermind together, right? A couple masterminds, and like some of the guys who come, they don't want to bring no value. It's like they just want to show up, but it's like, you know, we just finally said, like, if we're gonna bring people and invite people, like, you got to level up, dude. Like, what are you doing here? You know, you can't just show up and like type some things out. But like, if you're not going to show up with something that's going to enhance us and do something for us, what's the point? And so I think that group is awesome. I want to join that group.
yeah, I'm in. Yeah, it's a give and take, right?
It has to be, right?
Value has to come from every angle, every end. But anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure
No, thank
having
you.
you on the show. If you were to leave somebody with the best bit of advice that you can, if they were entering or wanted to enter into the performance parts, maybe as a hobby to start, what would you offer them?
Just sit down and learn everything you could possibly learn, because the 10x rule is so real, right? It's 10 times harder, 10 times longer, 10 times more expensive than you ever thought it would be. But the trade-off is that it is so worth it. The feeling that you get is undescribable. You know, there's so much value in it. You know,
Where can people find you?
they can find me on Instagram. It's Globex Radis. My company is Globex Performance and GBX MFG. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the normal socials. And then,
When we put up the YouTube video, just throw in the comments, throw all your links in the comments, and make sure everyone's following you. So it was awesome having you out here on the
thank you so
show,
much.
and super, super awesome guest. And guys, listen, if you're not following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, go ahead and do so. Thanks, Mike.
thanks.